sensitive data probably, which is the first one I've reported.
Yeah.
Sorry, the 2 error. Okay. Thank you for doing it.
Okay. Iran, North Korea. Is everyone ready? No impact comparison done by Jrob on the question of Iran versus North Korea. The Hirsch evidence means that Iran-US war is the biggest impact in the round. It's the only scenario for a conflict that can draw on other nuclear powers. The attack by Iran would incite massive US nuclear retaliation against Iran, which would cause Middle East power draw-ins, and the worldly powers causes a global Armageddon and extinction. Now the dust evidence was 100% conceded. Jrob can never win offense on the Iran debate because the Iran Green Movement is going to succeed in the status quo that ensures that Ahmadinejad's hardline regime will collapse now. He even proves this when he says that Iranians in the status quo are blaming people like Ahmadinejad, which means that imposing the extra oil sanctions, which he's defending doing now, would get them to be angry against the United States. There's 3 conceded reasons for this argument. The A point is that it causes current Iran leaders to adopt the siege mentality, making them invulnerable to political change. The B point is that there's massive international opposition to the U.S. sanctioning Iran, causes global backlash against necessary movements to ensure the transition away from the hardline regime. The C point is that sanctions strengthen the regime. They'll cause people in the government to unite over their hatred for America. People in the Green Movement want Iran to have nuclear weapons. They consider nuclear power capabilities core right. It'll just anger them more if we sanction them in the name of dispelling Iranian nuclearization. Look, this evidence says the Green Movement will succeed in the status quo. Jrob did not make any evidence indicates off of that argument. You should prefer in-round analysis. Now, my evidence is great on this point, but prefer in-round analysis because it directly determines our critical thinking abilities. Now, off his Phillips evidence, he says that Iran has targeted materials to get nuclear weapons. Yes, the Iran hardline regime has nuclear weapons now. I have the only scenario for dispelling them. That because the Bremer evidence, the only impact question, internal link level read on the debate indicates that the hardline regime is the core reason that there would ever be an impact on the question of Iran. If that regime stays in power, it is the only scenario for the Hirsch impact, and he has no means to solve that because he is never saying that while some Russian oil company might take their business elsewhere, why that would be a significant enough harm on the IRGC to dispel it from office. The only scenario for the IRGC to get eliminated is the Green Movement succeeding. He did not present any alternative claim on that question in debate round. There is no solution that the negative provides for how Iran is going to not want to nuke anymore once they have sanctions. Also, he says that sanctions overthrow the regime and people will blame Ahmadinejad, saying people will blame America for the sanctions. The only author who making a conclusion on this question is Duss. Now, on the North Korean debate, he said concedes that I solve the root cause of North Korean hostility, which generates a long-term avoidance of the impact of our Choi evidence, which means it outweighs his alternative conflict. There's no impact comparison done on these 2 scenarios from North Korean conflict. Now, the Deluri evidence indicates that North Korean trade is inevitable. Nations like China, South Korea, and Russia will begin massive trade initiatives with them now. It means even if he wins this argument that we're bribing some party leaders due to the imminent hostility of the North Korean government and the fact that in the status quo, sanctions will not be successful because other nations will undermine that type of bribing that occurs, means U.S. sanctions would not be able to choke the regime. We should trade with North Korea to expose them to democratization so the government progress and doesn't lash out hostilely as a reaction to the perception of being internationally shunned. North Korea's economic isolation is the root of their hostility. Also, his Carpenter evidence is from 2004. The only evidence that makes a conclusion on the question of North Koreans' cooperation in the current diplomatic climate is the Lin evidence, which indicates that they want, aside from Kim Jong-il, all the leaders want to negotiate denuclearization, and Kim Jong-il is also leaning towards that path, which means if we lift sanctions, it'll cause that.
Good job, Pat.